Mr. Trump, would you consider Russia as a security threat? Thank you.
Well, I consider many countries as a security threat. I hope that we do have good relations with Russia. I say it loud and clear. I've been saying it for years. I think it's a good thing if we have great relationships, or at least good relationships with Russia. That's very important, and I believe someday that will happen.
And if he has his way, I'm sure it will. President Trump yesterday again turning down a chance to say anything remotely negative about Russia. And every day it seems we get another bit of information that might indicate why. The latest, despite all his denials during the campaign and as president that he had no business dealings or investments in Russia, turns out his company was pursuing a Trump Tower project in the heart of Moscow, a process that began during his run for the White House. More now from ABC's Brian Ross.
Some 4 months after he began to run for president, denying he had any ties to Russia, Donald Trump secretly signed a letter of intent to build a Trump Tower skyscraper in Moscow. The letter was signed on October 28, 2015, according to Trump's lawyer. All at the same time that Trump was full of praise for Russia and Russian President Vladimir Putin, including to George Stephanopoulos.
Because if we get along well with Russia, that's a positive thing, George, not a negative thing.
The deal for the Moscow project was later abandoned just before the first primaries. Yet Trump, during the rest of the campaign, continued to flatly deny any connection to Russia.
I don't deal there. I have no businesses there. I have no loans from Russia. I have nothing to do with Russia. I don't owe money. I don't have deals in Russia. I don't know Putin. I have nothing to do with Russia.
But Trump failed to mention that his lawyer, Michael Cohen, had actually emailed Vladimir Putin's press secretary in January 2016, asking for government help in negotiating the Moscow deal. The middleman for the Moscow Trump Tower deal was a convicted felon and one-time FBI informant, Felix Sater, who was also involved in other Trump deals. At the time of the Moscow deal, Trump executives denied to ABC News that Sater had any current role with Trump.
To say he's a senior advisor to Mr. Trump at any point in time would not have been accurate in my mind, or in Mr. Trump's mind.
Yet Sater was given cards by the Trump Organization calling him a senior advisor to Donald Trump, even though under oath in a civil suit, Trump essentially denied knowing Sater.
If he were sitting in the room right now, I really wouldn't know what he looked like.
In emails turned over to Congress between Sater and Trump's lawyer Cohen, first reported by the Washington Post, Sater wrote, "Buddy, our boy can become president of the USA and we can engineer it. I will get all of Putin's team to buy in on this."
Of course, that's just one of many, many links and potential links between this president and Russia. Like first son Eric Trump's claims that the company, the Trump Organization, had access to $100 million in Russian money. The money, quote, "We don't rely on American banks. We have all the funding we need out of Russia." Or that now famous meeting in Trump Tower during the campaign last year, Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort looking for dirt on Hillary Clinton that they were told would come from the Russian government. And I'm sure you at home can add any number of stories about Trump and Russia to this list. And I think back to all the phone calls that we've had reported on with Trump trying to pressure members of the Senate to let go of the Russia investigation, Trump firing James Comey. It's all about Russia. It's really all about Russia with this guy, isn't it?
It seems like a bit much to be random, Andrew. I mean, listen, we still don't have the unifying thread that goes through all of it. But I think we're getting some pieces. I mean, listen, we're all on the edge of our seats, let's be honest, waiting to see what Comey is going to come up with. And he is particularly uniquely suited to getting it with subpoena power, these top investigators, time on his hands, the ability to work anonymously, unlike these congressional committees. But man, the evidence sure is piling up, isn't it?
It really is. It's almost, for as much as we've talked about Russia, and as much as conservatives and conservative media have complained about the media's focus on Russia, I almost think we might be underplaying the significance of the Russia story and all this. He's so preoccupied with it, and he keeps coming back to it, and all these stories come out.
Well, Andrew, the unifying thread that Ellis just referred to, that we don't have it yet, it's coming. I bet my life on it. It's coming very soon. And that's why, frankly, it's the right thing to do for the president to be in Texas, but that's why he's in Texas. That's why we see so many sensational headlines come out of the White House, because he is an expert at creating smoke screens to get away from the real issue. The latest news as of tonight, you mentioned Paul Manafort. Well, Manafort's lawyer and spokesperson has received a subpoena from the feds. Now, remember, the feds raided Manafort's home recently. So add up the math. They're trying to flip him. It's obvious the feds are trying to put pressure on him. And you know that Manafort has probably got the goods on what's going on. This issue, the president could turn blue, and this issue is not going to go away of Russia. Those federal prosecutors, and you have to give them credit, no matter what the president does, they keep their heads down and they're continuing to do their job. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. In all likelihood, some type of indictments are coming. And if you flip possibly the son-in-law, or if you indict the son-in-law, might the son-in-law flip, this is going to be a mess, but it's not going away.
There's another concern in all this. We keep talking about Russia being an existential threat to this presidency, could be an existential threat to the United States. Don't forget, a lot of people forget, Russia funds the Taliban. We're now recommitting troops and have a troop surge going on in Afghanistan. We have troops in harm's way in Syria, where Russia is a major player. They're a major player in North Korea. Beyond just the interference in the election and whether they supported President Trump, they haven't gotten the quid or the quo in the quid pro quo in the Russia deal yet. They've got more sanctions on them and everything else, but they can still influence our policies around the world and where we send our military.
That's right. And don't assume that they're not going to try and influence the next election.
Right.
Right? I mean, it turns out they're really pretty good at that. And we're, frankly, kind of defenseless against it, at least at this point. We don't really figured out how to combat it in a political way, in a technological way. So I really do think we got to get some answers quickly on this.
Yeah, I think so. Are you concerned at all when you hear about the Afghanistan surge and things like that? I mean, Russia's right there. Russia's right there behind the scenes.
I think, like most Americans, we want to find out why is it that the president, when it comes to Russia, he does the two-step tap dance, and he can blast anybody and everybody else. If it comes to Paul Ryan, boom, criticize him. If it comes to Mitch McConnell, boom, criticize him. It comes to Russia, oh, we need to have a great relationship. Do the math. Do the math. Do the math. First-year journalism student can answer this one. Do the math.
If it's just money and not money in exchange for, is that still going to be received as the kind of problem that I suspect we would agree it is?
There's a missing piece in our knowledge here. And I don't think we know the answer. Because money, yeah, probably money is part of it. But guys, there is something beyond that. There's some kind of blood brother thing going on, some kind of simpatico, emotional thing that the logic doesn't add up yet.
Best? Everybody at this table knows what it is, but we've all got to tap dance and put nice words on it and say, like you just said, it's a blood brother relationship?
Blood brother thing?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. That's good. That's good. I like that. I'm gonna use that one.
Might be another kind of connection based on that dossier that we keep hearing about.
Just Andrew, on the president lying about his business deals. This is the typical politician. It's almost as Bill Clinton defined the word defined the word is. So technically he can say, I did not lie. I did not have any business dealing in Russia because we didn't sign it. Right, not from lack of trying. Because we didn't sign the letter of intent. So technically he's correct. Even though he lied, a bold-faced lie to the American people.
Got to move on. When we come back, a jaw-dropper from the Secretary of State asked whether the president speaks to America's values in the eyes of the world. Our top diplomat says only the president speaks for himself. That's next when RFL continues.